Hi everyone, my name is Hernandez, and in today's presentation I'll be discussing imagery and concentration. Imagery is a form of stimulation that utilizes all our senses in order to create or recreate an experience. We utilize vividness, which includes utilizing our sight, taste, smell, hearing, and touch in order to create a detailed image, as well as controllability, which is our ability to manipulate images in order to do what we like. There are two types of imagery, which include external imagery, and this is in a third-person perspective. Within this type of imagery, we lack the kinesthetic sense, which is our understanding of our body's positioning and how the muscles move within this action. It is a lot better used for open tasks, which example could be playing basketball or playing a sport that is in a constantly changing environment. And then we also have internal imagery, which is in a first-person perspective, and this is a lot better for more close tasks such as swimming, golfing. These are all tasks where the environment is pretty stable within itself. Another key difference between the two is that internal imagery depends more on perception and anticipation in order to perform well, whereas external imagery depends more on form. Some factors that influence imagery is the nature of the task, which is how familiar is the athlete with that action, their skill level, imaging ability, and utilizing imagery within practice. So just like physical practice, we practice months in advance before a big competition. It's the same idea with imagery. We want to be practicing imagery months in advance and within our practice settings in order for when big competition day comes, we're mentally prepared and physically prepared. Another factor that's been newly researched is personality, and it's said to say that being a narcissist and utilizing imagery can enhance their performance because it allows them to view themselves in a third person perspective and to see how their actions can play out. Moving on to the theories of imagery, there are three types. The first one includes psychoneuromuscular theory, which is utilizing imagery sends these neural impulses to our muscles that would have been activated during that skill. This is the physiological approach. Then there's symbolic learning theory, which is more of a cognitive approach, and this creates a mental blueprint. So basically an imaginary checklist that you create in order to become successful. And then there's bioinformational theory. This is the combination of both stimulus proposition and response proposition. Stimulus proposition is basically putting yourself within the scenario. So for example, Conor McGregor imagines a crowd full of people, music, lights, and everything while he's practicing, because it helps put him into that setting and mentally prepare him for it. Then there's response proposition, which is how the imager responds to the scenario. So example, if their palms are sweating, their heart is pounding, this is kind of them imagining that scenario and putting themselves into it. We utilize imagery in order to improve our concentration, enhance motivation, build confidence, and control emotional responses. My question to you is, what are some of the tactics that you would use in order to enhance your imagery skills? So since we know imagery is used for different types of scenarios, is there one tactic that you would use in order to improve your concentration and then a different one to enhance your motivation? And that's a question I'll just leave you with to think about. Now that you have some time to think of what tactics you would use in order to enhance your imagery, here are the more formal techniques used in order to create an imagery training program. The first one includes practicing in multiple settings. So this is pretty obvious because if we're practicing in one type of setting, we're going to be prepared for that one type of setting. But for example, open tasks such as basketball, the environment is constantly changing. Players are constantly going in and out, so we have to mentally prepare ourselves in order for these changes. Another tactic is being in a relaxed concentration, so our ability to refocus is very important when we're utilizing imagery, along with realistic expectations. So although we're imagining things and we're kind of daydreaming in a sense, we have to stay pretty realistic. We can't go dreaming about jumping 60 feet in order to slam dunk the ball. Like, they have to be pretty realistic. In addition to, again, utilizing that vivid and controlled images, staying positive, and another new one that's been used is video and audio. So if you have the ability to record your best performance and go back to it and watch it before a game, it's been shown to kind of like put you in the zone and mentally prepare yourself for the upcoming competition that you're going to be playing. Now we're going to go ahead and view a video of how different elite athletes utilize imagery within their performance practices and how it's influenced their ability to achieve their goals.
Our brains cannot tell the difference between an actual physical event and the vivid visualization of that same event. A reason for this is that when we experience something and when we visualize the same thing, we activate similar brain circuits. Because of this, visualizing desirable outcomes helps boost confidence, motivate ourselves, improve focus, practice movement sequences, increase strength, decrease reaction times, rewire our brains, and make epigenetic changes in our bodies. These things, along with your training, all complement and reinforce each other to improve performance and help you achieve your goals. For example, Conor McGregor uses visualization to boost confidence and prepare for competition. To give you an idea of how serious Conor is about training his mental game, here's what his coach John Kavanagh has said about it.
Visualization techniques that Conor was doing before I'd heard of anyone else doing them. Like he could tell me when he was going to fight. He knew exactly what was going to happen long before it happened because he had done it 1,000 times in his head. He had warmed up it backstage. He had heard the crowd. He had smelt the arena. He had seen the audience. He would really immerse himself in the fight night. So by the time fight night came along, where a lot of people they'd maybe been training in kind of a quiet gym for 8 or 12 weeks, and then they walk out to 15,000 people and they get shocked. He used to walk in going, yeah, this is my 1,000th time doing this.
Like John Kavanagh said, Conor's vivid visualizations can help explain why he is so relaxed and confident when he makes the walk to the octagon. It's a similar story with Michael Phelps. In his book, he writes that he would visualize to prepare for competition and to motivate himself, sometimes for up to 2 hours in one sitting.
My dreams and visualizing kind of really played a role in to making me motivated and helping me achieve the goals that I had.
Alex Honnold, an athlete who climbs some of the world's most challenging mountains without a rope, does the same thing as Phelps. As he writes in his book, sitting and thinking, hour after hour, visualizing every single move, everything that could possibly happen. That's what it takes to wrap your mind around a challenge such as the one I was about to attempt. I had deliberately visualized everything that might happen on the climb, including breaking a hold or just losing it and falling off. In a real sense, I performed the hard work of that free solo during the days leading up to it. Once I was on the climb, it was just a matter of executing. In terms of increasing focus and decreasing reaction times, a study of 200 martial artists found that visualization and self-talk reduced reaction times from 0.737 seconds to 0.659 seconds, roughly 10%. Although this may not seem like much, this is often the difference between winning or losing.
The video is pretty interesting because, as we know, we have a lot of physical coaches that teach us the gameplay. We have strength coaches that teaches us how to lift, to build our physical appearance. But one thing that we're lacking is that mental coach. And now I know we're supposed to say that our coaches are supposed to mentally prepare us for the games, but a lot of the times these coaches aren't trained in order to teach us imagery and concentration. And the difference that makes an elite athlete, is that ability to utilize imagery, being able to become refocused within a game setting. And I think the next step moving forward in order to enhance our performance would be hiring those mental coaches. Now that we talked a lot about imagery, we're going to go ahead and move on to concentration. Concentration is our focus on relevant cues within the environment. It's our ability to remain focused and basically shift our focus back when needed, along with being situationally aware of our environment. Some types of attentional focus include broad and narrow. Broad is attending to several cues, whereas narrow is attending to one or two, which is commonly used in golf, along with internal, which is focusing on our thoughts and feelings, and as well as external, which is focusing on environmental cues. There are two types of distractors, which is internal and external, and as you can see, we have a lot more internal distractors than our external distractors. Some include attending to the past events, future events, choking under pressure, focusing too much on our body's form within an action, and as well as fatigue and losing motivation. Some of the external Distractors include visual and auditory. The term that we mentioned earlier was choking. So a lot of times when we think about the term choking, we think about missing the game-winning free throw, the game-winning field goal, and basically losing an opportunity right before winning. However, that's not the case. Choking is the process that leads to impaired performance. So a lot of things come into play before we choke. So for example, missing 3 shots in a row, or not doing the correct footing right before you take a dive for a ball, and such things like that. There are two types of hypotheses that explain choking. The first one is conscious processing hypothesis, and this basically states that our attentional focus is beyond the window where we are no longer on autopilot. We're so focused on taking 3 dribbles right before taking the shot that we completely forget how to shoot the ball, basically. And then the second hypothesis is attention threshold, and this is basically increased pressure and the need to perform leads to overload and attentional capacity. So in other words, this is the additional pressure and our desire to perform successfully kind of overloads our brain, and we become stressed and to the point where we no longer can perform to our abilities. Choking is, in other words, basically a mental battle within ourselves. And in order to avoid choking within a game setting, as well as improving our concentration, we can utilize stimulation within practice. So creating these game-like scenarios within practice, so that way we're learning how to refocus in practice rather than learning how to refocus within a game, which can be a lot more complicated because we have external distractors now, such as the visual and the auditory distractors. Along with that, we can utilize cue words. So for example, before a powerlifter goes on to carry 500 pounds or deadlift 500 pounds, they say the words execute, take a big breath, and breathe out, and they go ahead and execute that lift. Another tactic is using non-judgmental thinking. So, for example, Hope Solo. If Hope Solo misses a goal by not saving it, she realizes what she did and she erases it out of her memory and gets ready for the next shot taken at her. Rather than focusing so much on how she missed that last dive, she'll be focusing on how to prevent the other goal. Another tactic is establishing a routine. So for example, if you're going up for a free throw, you take 3 dribbles with one hand, 3 dribbles with the other hand, take a deep breath in and out, and then you shoot. And a lot of the times we'll see a lot of different athletes perform these routines right before they take a free throw in order to remain focused. Another tactic, again, is developing competition plans. So this can go along hand with our imagery skill of symbolic learning theory, which is creating that mental blueprint in order to improve our concentration. And another huge one that we can use is positive self-talk. As we discussed earlier, self-talk enhances our confidence, and it can also enhance our concentration just as much. My last question I'm going to leave you with today is, how can we utilize imagery in order to enhance our concentration? We already talked about different tactics that we can use in order to enhance concentration, but what about imagery? We know imagery can be used within sports, school, life plans, and whatever we wish. So there has to be a way we can utilize imagery to enhance concentration. What is your way that you would go about it? Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.